Once upon a time, in the bustling metropolis, our story begins with a girl just trying to catch the subway. But wait, plot twist incoming. She's suddenly ambushed by a gang throwing a wild party right there on the platform. And to top it off, a drone disguised as an owl swoops in, snatching her up and flying her off to goodness knows where. Next thing she knows, she's landed in the middle of a wacky ceremony for the grand opening of Connection 7G. Cue the spotlight and enter our host, who welcomes her like she's just won the lottery, claiming she's lucky number 777 out of the crowd. Now it's her turn to shine, and our girl, feeling like a deer caught in headlights, blurts out her name, Nakatomi Yoka. But hold on to your hats, folks, because the host's none other than Poison Pontero, self-proclaimed kingpin of the 7G World Propagation Committee. He's all charm as he asks her what she's expecting from this lightning speed world connection. Instant chats with anyone, anywhere, that's the dream of this newfangled 7G tech. Forget 5G, missed the boat on 6G, but with 7G, Japan's gonna take back the crown. Sure, there were haters and smear campaigns against the project, but they brushed off those baseless rumors like crumbs off their shoulders. They've crammed all the world's top tech into 7G direct brain access, thought transmission on turbo speed, turning dreams into reality in a snap. It's like playing God, but with better Wi-Fi. Nakatomi, feeling like she's wandered into the wrong movie, tentatively asks if she can just call it a day. But Pontero's not about to let the party end there. It's time for the big show. He rallies the crowd, and they start the countdown, our girl sweating bullets beside him. When the moment of truth arrives, she presses the button on 7G, and chaos ensues. The world goes topsy-turvy, people start morphing like they're auditioning for a sci-fi flick, and Nakatomi's hitting that button like it's a panic button on steroids. Amidst the madness, she and Pontero manage to pick themselves up, but the city's a hot mess, and Pontero's losing his marbles, wondering what the heck just went down. Even after pressing the button, it seems the city's got itself in a right pickle. 2 years after the chaos, a lizard asks Shizuru if she's really thinking about her future because he's not buying those lame excuses anymore. Besides, it's been 2 years already. A transmission from Agano Station District announces that the Black Leopard caravan will soon arrive at Agano Jukumi. It asks if there are any packages to send or receive, or if anyone wants to make a purchase. Suddenly, a weary bear emerges. He steps outside and spots Kazuyo and Granny 8, who explain they bumped into each other on a bridge. The bear thought they'd fought over some jute sacks. Granny 8 asks if he's made up with Kiko yet. He hasn't. Granny 8 bets he complained about her cooking again and warns him not to criticize others' food. The bear tries to justify himself, saying he's a bear and Kiko's a servant. They have different tastes. Granny thinks that's backward thinking because food is food in the end. She remarks that Agano got lucky with animals, as she heard of places where everyone turned into trees. Fortunately, they became animals and could still move. For the bear, it's not all sunshine, as he's always hungry. Granny suggests he become a tree, a rock, or a mushroom. The bear thinks it's cruel. Granny 8 assures him that animal life isn't so bad once you get used to it. The bear, named Masaharu, agrees. Since turning into a bear 2 years ago, he's gotten used to it. The capybara mentions that Atsushi turned into an eye and still hasn't adjusted. The bear asks if the one he saw wandering at night was Atsushi and wonders if he's at that age. Granny explains he said he would have left Agano if he'd known this would happen. Even if they leave, people from Agano always turn into mammals or birds. They're doomed to become animals even if they leave. The bear remembers something, the girl who disappeared after the 7G incident. And Granny 8 wonders where she might be at that moment, thinking that Chikura might still be searching for her. The bear muses that if she were still in Agano, turned into an animal and living alone in an unknown place, Granny 8 would simply advise her to adapt. For Masaharu the bear, at least now they didn't need to pay for health insurance and retirement plans anymore. While the animals chatted, 2 girls approached, chatting among themselves. Granny 8 tells the girls that since they were talking about curry, they might be hungry, and if they wanted, she could give them some of her crickets to stave off their hunger. The girl with Akira declines politely, but Akira says it's okay to eat insects in those times. The girl says she doesn't want them because they're not cute, but Akira insists they're nutritious. Akira's friend doesn't care if they're nutritious or not. After the incident, they only had big rice harvests 6 times a year, and the bitter melons provided a lot of calories. What she needed was cuteness and adventure. Akira jokes that they've already started escapism, or maybe it's just excessive optimism, thinking outside the box. The girl says she perfectly understands what Akira is saying. She's mocking her. Akira admits she hit the nail on the head. The girl says Akira really gets on her nerves. For Akira, it's just the power of words. Suddenly, another girl intervenes, admonishing them not to resort to violence no matter what happens. This girl's name is Nadiko, and she says Akira is a good girl, and so is Riemi. The bear talks to Nadiko, asking if she didn't think the black leopard caravan was running quite late. Everyone had been waiting for quite some time. Nadiko thinks they must be close by. Akira wonders if everyone from the black leopard caravan had been wiped out. Riemi says it would be terrible because her newspaper was supposed to arrive that day. Nadiko mentions that Shizuru wasn't there either. Akira says she had a vocational interview with Iguchi on that same day. Then, the old man Zinjiro passes by. He used to be tall and charming, but now he's all bent over and keeps muttering TT. The weird thing is, he managed to stay human. After all, everyone in Agano turns into animals when they reach 21 years and 3 months old. Those girls would become animals in the future, and they couldn't even choose. The bear is getting impatient because he really wants to know if he can finally have some meat, a nice juicy steak. But girls only eat rice, bitter melon, and sweet potatoes. The bear starts drooling at the thought of steak and jumps towards the girls, but then Shizuru arrives and defends them. Nadiko asks Shizuru how the meeting went, and Shizuru replies that it was fine. But in reality, the lizard just scolded her. Then, the delivery finally arrives, and everyone eagerly gathers around to see. The delivery guy apologizes for the delay. Shizuru asks the delivery guy Nico if he heard anything, but he says no again. Shizuru insists, asking if he heard about anyone new in town or people leaving. But Nico knows nothing about it. He says if something happened, everyone would talk about it, and then he asks about her. Shizuru says there's nothing new in Agano. She patrols every day. Nico understands and delivers what they ordered. Riemi got the newspaper she wanted so badly, but Akira goes over to bother her again, saying it's used. But Riemi doesn't care. After all, they don't even publish books anymore, so she's not going to complain. And in that moment, as they looked at the deliveries they received, Shizuru asks Nico to work with him. But Nico refuses without hesitation. Nothing would change his mind because it was too dangerous. Shizuru tells him she's a black belt in Agano Jiu-Jitsu. He explains that their delivery company was the only one left, and they didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But he would let her know if he found out anything. She just needed to be patient. Then, the delivery team leaves, and they think it will take another month for the next delivery. Nadiko had bought myrtle seedlings because she really wanted something like that. But Nadiko also didn't know why she had that desire. Akira had bought a book of black magic from Tatsuhiko. Meanwhile, Shizuru opens the newspaper wrapping, and they discover that there are still places publishing newspapers. And there, in the newspaper, they recognize the girl Nakatomi who was present at the ceremony. The girls realize that the photo was taken last month, and then they run to Granny to ask. On that day 2 years ago, the world had changed completely. The distance between train stations and between cities had increased immensely, not just in geography. Everyone had changed completely. In Agano, adults turned into animals, although they still thought like humans. But the girls believed they became animals completely at some point. They reach Granny Koyuki asking her to see the newspaper. Granny sees it, and her eyes fill with tears as she starts crying silently. At first, everyone was surprised. It was a shock for everyone to turn into animals. Several people formed a reconnaissance team and left Agano. Half of them returned out of fear, and the other half never came back. Granny was crying because she found out her only granddaughter was alive. She was happy. While the girls argued, Shizuru goes back home. After these phenomena were caused by the 7G's malfunction, no one knew how to return things to normal, or they didn't feel like doing something like that. Thanks to 7G, people barely had electricity. They had no TV or internet, but they could use PHS over short distances. The refrigerator worked, but the breaker would trip if both the fridge and microwave were running. Then Shizuru remembers a disagreement with Nakatomi, which was also the last time she saw her. But she hadn't found her because she was in Ikebukuro. Shizuru feeds Pachai, a Shiba Inu, wondering why he hadn't turned into a human. All adult humans turned into animals, so it wouldn't be strange if he had become human. Pachai was Nakatomi's dog, so if she showed up, he would let Shizuru know. She walks at night and asks Zenjiro what he's doing on the tracks and tells him to go back. Zenjiro says hat, and then a hat ribbon falls from his hand. Shizuru lets Pachai smell it, and Pachai runs along the tracks to find something with his sense of smell. The old man Zenjiro goes along with Shizuru, and they stop near a train. She tries to open the door but can't, so she forces it open. She manages to open it, and Pachai enters with her. Shizuru finds Zenjiro's hat and puts it on his head. Instantly, Zenjiro starts talking. He talks about how he told Pontero to give up on 7G. No one would accept those standards. Pontero ignored numerous researchers who warned about the threat to the laws of physics. He only accepted dubious data from those who wanted to profit. Instead of settling for the worst, he had to insist on the double worst. Not only did he mess things up, but he also made Zenjiro undergo a surgery of blah blah blah, calling him a scoundrel. Zenjiro swore he would put an end to 7G. Pontero would never lay hands on Ikebukuro again. Then Zenjiro decides he will pilot that train. Zenjiro asks if she's Shizuru and remembers when she once got stuck in a ditch. Shizuru tells him to forget about that and asks if he can really pilot the train. She ends up dropping his hat, and Zenjiro turns back into the twisted old man again. Putting the hat back on didn't do anything, it stayed the same. Shizuru was mega frustrated. Then Shizuru explains everything to her mom, and her mom just asks her to be careful. The other girls, Shizuru's friends, are in a classroom and the lizard is taking attendance, but Shizuru was absent. Nadeko says she saw her last night, saying she solved the mystery of the hat. Ryumi asks if she had become a delinquent. But at that moment, Shizuru appears, thanking Agachi for everything up to that day, saying she was dropping out of school. Shizuru was on the train, with Zenjiro in his younger form saying everything was ready, but he couldn't accompany her for certain reasons, but she would be fine, he would be waiting for news from them. But just as he was about to give important information, he transforms back into the twisted old man in the middle of the conversation. The girls didn't like that she was quitting school, but Shizuru tells them to take care of everyone because she was going to Ikebukuro. The girls decide to go along, and Pachai also joins them on this journey. There were still 30 stops to Ikebukuro.